Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. After another round of strikes on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure, Russian propagandists have apparently decided to finish off logic itself. Now the Z media has a new sensation. The key, they claim, is introducing a tax on water from private wells. Yeah, the thing you pump from the ground and typically does not make it to any market. The loudest headline came from Moskovsky Komsomolets, which claimed that Ukrainian farmers would soon pay for every drop after the first 2 cubic meters. But the tax bill that they reference has actually nothing to do with wells. It's about European water quality standards, to make sure that what comes out of the tap is actually drinkable. Article 255 of Ukraine's tax code still guarantees no one pays for water they draw for personal use. Even funnier is where the fake began. A Ukrainian TikTok blogger in Poland with 9,000 followers casually said, probably. And that single word became official confirmation in the Russian universe.
Ну що ж, дивіться, в Україні розглядається законопроект, в якому буде, і він, напевно, буде прийнятий, а можливо, не зараз, можливо, зараз побачать обурення людей і приймуть його пізніше, але про що він йдеться? Люди, які мають вдома керницю, правильно, що вода, і мають проведену воду в хату, то ці люди, навіть якщо не маєте проведено, але в общому керниця є, ви будете платити так, як зробили за газ. Так само тепер будуть робити за те, що ви маєте воду взагалі, що ви нею користуєтеся. На місяць вам пару кубів буде безкоштовно. Пару кубів ви можете використати безкоштовно. А далі там буде лічильник, опломбована керниця, далі ви будете платити за кожен куб якусь там ціну. Ціна ще не узгоджена, нічого ще не узгоджено, але цей законопроект вже починають розглядати і вдосконалювати. І скоріш за все його приймуть. І ось в мене питанько, а як жити в нашій країні?
And now Kremlin outlets are running headlines about Ukraine taking away the last thing from its people, pairing them with footage of dark Ukrainian streets, which ironically are dark because of Russian missiles. TASS even threw in an invented figure claiming Ukraine has lost 70% of its energy capacity. They didn't say how they got to the number though, maybe with the same math they used to count Ukrainian Nazis in Poland. So while Russia is actually cutting power and bombing water systems, its media rant about a fake whale tax. It's a perfect snapshot of their method. Destroy the real, then invent something worse to blame on somebody else. When facts dry up, propaganda just starts pumping air. Hollywood actress Reese Witherspoon, known for her bright smile and light-hearted roles in rom-coms, has decided to dive into darker waters. She just unveiled her first novel, Gone Before Goodbye, co-written with thriller author Harlan Coben. At first glance, the plot sounds promising. A military surgeon, Maggie McCabe, loses everything: her husband, her career, before receiving a mysterious offer from a plastic surgeon to work off her debts by performing one last operation in Russia. Specifically in Rubliovka, the land of oligarchs where even the dogs have chauffeurs and Teslas. There, she meets millionaire Oleg Ragorovich, who naturally has a case that would change her life. Now, it's the kind of setup that Netflix would greenlight on sight, but romanticizing Rubliovka while Russian missiles rain on Ukrainian cities feel a little tone deaf, like setting a love story in a bunker and calling it a drama about hope. The Los Angeles Times called it an immersion into the world of Russian oligarchy. Readers, however, were quick to notice it's less of an immersion and more of a dive straight into propaganda quicksand, with thousands of untold stories about courage, love, humanity. Why choose Russia, a place where even the word ethics sounds historical? Witherspoon's novel was meant to explore Russia's hidden world. It did, just not in a way she intended. Behind the chandeliers, the champagnes, lie a country at war with truth, where glamour is just a costume of decay. The book tries to find mystery in Moscow's luxury, but the real mystery is how anyone can still romanticize it. In the end, fiction didn't uncover reality, it only looked away from it. In the latest episode of the Russian program called How Was It?, One of the participants in the first stage of the invasion of Ukraine, paratrooper Kirill Melihov, shared his memories of the attempt to capture the airport in Hostomel in February of 2022. And here's the quote destined for the textbooks on absurdity. Quote, "We expected to take Kyiv in 3 hours. Not days, not weeks, 3 hours. Such confidence. Heck, my sushi delivery last night took longer."
Это туда так на 3 часа. Взять аэропорт, закрепиться, от колонны подошли и все там. Заехали в Киев, победа. Мы такие вышли, бронежилеты давай уже скидывать. Все, сейчас выиграем. И артобстрел пошел. А как мы узнали то, что летим в Киев, я по выражению лица командира, понял, что сейчас что-то такое произойдет. Залезаем в вертолет, двери закрываются, и карта раскрывается. Киев.
А какие мысли? Это напугало или...
Нет, это в голове у меня, наверное, вообще было, знаете что? Типа, ничего себе, в историю сейчас попадем. Вообще же классно. И тебе надо в эту работу включиться и не растеряться. Я очень благодарен нашим командирам, которые заведомо нас готовили к этому ко всему готовили. Потому что мы готовились прям очень серьезно. И припасов у нас было, это просто вообще, у нас кстати, очень много всего. Глупо, очень глупо, как они это все в СМИ закидывают и сами не могут это все грамотно преподнести. Они пытаются это сделать, но только у нас правда-то своя.
Когда пошли в Гостомель, там как бы с того края товарищи украинцы неплохо по информационке тоже много всего делали. Писали то, что российские военные, там, понятно, звери-оккупанты, убивают мирное население, жгут, издеваются.
Вот что я могу по этому поводу сказать? Вот как они раскидывали эту провокацию в Буче, видели же, как они сами подтягивали, по дорогам раскладывали. Глупость, на самом деле, глупость. Они еще и так лежат все. Надо же было красиво же все это преподать.
According to Melihov, the paratroopers were preparing for a quick operation. Capture Hostomel, wait for the main forces, and then enter Kyiv altogether. In their imagination, it was something between a Victory Day parade and the filming of a music video. But Ukrainian defenders decided to rewrite the script. Instead of flowers, anti-tank missiles. Instead of hurrah, Bayraktars. And instead of taking Kyiv, they took to the hills. So let's recall what actually happened. In the early hours of the full-scale invasion, Russian troops really did try to land at Hostomel to seize a strategic airport and create an air bridge for reinforcements. The plan collapsed instantly. Helicopters were shot down, paratroopers surrounded, and the town became a symbol of the failure of the so-called 3-hour blitzkrieg. Now, Russian troops didn't believe they would face resistance at all. They expected to land, unload, and roll into Kyiv with no opposition. Just a show of force to stage the illusion of inevitability. Even convoys of equipment were meant to signal surrender, not combat. No one planned for an actual fight, let alone for the kind of defense that they later made in Mariupol. The whole concept rested on a fantasy that Ukraine would fall because Moscow said so. The Russians needed to create the image of a massive offensive and the inevitability of surrender. The goal was psychological, a spectacle of dominance. The arrival of those convoys was supposed to make Ukrainians lose hope before the first shot was ever fired. They never imagined that Ukraine would resist, reorganize, and fight back with unity and precision. More than 3 years have passed, not 3 hours, and Kyiv still stands. Hostomel is being rebuilt, and the same soldier who once expected a parade now sits on camera trying to explain what went wrong. Melihov's story isn't just about one failed assault, it's the whole war in miniature. Arrogance mistaken for strategy, lies for orders, fantasy for planning. Russia didn't take Kyiv in 3 hours, it only proved how far from reality its army and its leaders really are. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.